Hello everyone and welcome to our Game Week 37 preview pod. Today we're going to be talking about our best picks for this and the final game week of the season. Kieran, you excited for the season to be over? The stress to dissipate?
It's been a right one, to be fair. I was kind of hoping for a better green area last week because I've kind of lost a little bit of momentum, but hopefully the last 2 weeks can get me back up there. So yeah.
Perfect. That's exactly what we're looking for on today's show. Who are those best picks that are going to blast us up the ranks in the final 2 game weeks? All right, let's have a quick look back at how we got on. You can start. You can air out any frustrations you've got.
Yeah, so 47 points. Not enough for a green. It was a red, down from 21k to 33k. Not the way I want to be going at this point of the season. I didn't really have much choice. My bench didn't do too much, to be honest. I wasn't going to play Murphy over like Salah or anything like that, or De Bruyne. So, Pope in goal, 7 points was fine. Vardy, 6 points. I think the differential in the City defense is now having 2 of them, and I obviously do not have that. So Vardy, 6 points didn't really mean too much. Played Agbadou. It was against Brighton, wasn't it? Losing 2-0 was a bit of a at home as well. Didn't really see that coming quite. Because Wolves have been in good form. Constant 5 points, decent and annoying with the yellow card, but that's what it is. De Bruyne, City overall, apart from the defense, pretty lackluster. De Bruyne, was captained by many. I figured just owning him would probably be enough. Just 3 points there, annoying. And Bremo captain in the end, brought him in, I guess he got something, which is fine, I suppose. Unfortunate I guess that they didn't do more against Ipswich. They won 1-0, but expected more than that, to be honest. And obviously Vista with the yellow card, and who I brought in as well. Not doing anything. At least Saul got something, as I just ended up keeping him. I was really close to taking him out for someone like Bowen, but the fixture was good enough to. Obviously the 2-0 win was fine, but other than that, and then I saw the Marmoush bench. Leaks, and I took out him for Evan Nilsson. Probably should have gone for Wood, but Evan Nilsson I definitely want in the last game home to Leicester, so I figured why not. I don't think the City game is that bad potentially, I guess City's defense has been good, but Areola outscoring Pope on the bench, bit annoying, but is what it is. At least Pope got the clean sheet. But overall, I don't know what I would have done different other than maybe Wood in for Marmoush, but it is what it is, I guess. 47 points, not great, but we move on.
I didn't have much time to plan it because I think a lot of the game week I was building up to do Mateta, Wissa, and I'd held off, and we just thought that City lineup, I didn't actually think Marmoush was going to be benched, and then when it happened, it was just like, what do you do? And we only had obviously 20 minutes before the deadline to make some plans, and feel like that was a bit of a spanner in the works, really, because I would have been happy to hold him had he started. And so on my side,
he probably came the closest scoring as well. He hit the bar. That would have been a
way worse,
real kick in the teeth if he'd scored there.
It would have been gutting. I sort of was lucky in that sense that I waited, but it didn't really make any difference. So I planned Mateta to Wissa, did Marmoush to Wissa, they both scored the same, and then I decided to play Mateta against Spurs over Murphy. I watched the highlights back, and I wish I hadn't, because Mateta set up 2 big chances, I'd say, had a shot saved from about 3 yards out. He has been so frustrating. He's scored similarly to Sarr, and we've been on the wrong side of Eze, who's got double their points since game week 30. There wasn't any underlying numbers that Eze was going to shoot off and just crush the other 2, but he has. I
think we probably should have been a bit more wary of after injury for Mateta and his mins, and maybe just gone with the double up in the midfield, and we would have been all happier for it. But at that point there wasn't really a standout third striker to pick, and Mateta was it, and just with all the doubles happening and stuff. So hindsight, I guess, but yeah, I mean, I guess you've got him. Are you looking to move him on eventually?
Yeah, I think,
or this week probably.
I think
probably
this
will
week
be.
for sure.
Yeah,
but he's been a pain owning him. But let's get into. Oh, I suppose overall 52. So who else did well? Burn did well. I played Rodgers over Murphy, and I played Areola over Raya, and I was pleased that came in despite. I mean, United are awful. That's so awful. So
yeah.
I'm not expecting.
Was it a green or a red in the end? Still,
it was a red of about 6.
Yeah,
so
shame.
I think I honestly think it was Mateta and Munoz. If you don't have those two this game week, because I did, quite a lot of players that had good returns. So it's still a bit of a surprise to get a red arrow. So let's pivot a little bit and talk about this game week. I'm just going to bring up just the recent statistics of players in the last six or so game weeks, but just to sort of, I suppose, preempt our chat a little bit. I'm just going to talk about which teams that we think are probably worthwhile investing in. So that's teams with motivation. We think for game weeks 37 and 38, and it's probably even fewer than we think if City win the FA Cup final. So I would say, if maybe you agree, Man City, Chelsea, Aston Villa, Newcastle and Forest are the ones who are sort of chasing that Champions League spot, or the Champions League spots, I should say. So the long and short of the FA Cup, because of the way the places get distributed, is essentially if Man City win the FA Cup and they're the favourites to do so, that will mean that on the final day, Brentford, Brighton, Bournemouth, and Fulham and Palace really don't have anything to play for because 8th won't allocate a European spot. So it kind of not really dead ends all those teams, because I'm sure they will want to finish as high as they can for just pride and perhaps club financial reason, but it still makes you think, well, they perhaps haven't got that same desire after that game week. And it's difficult because obviously the FA Cup is wedged right in the middle of game week 37 on Saturday, so we're not going to know before the deadline. So I think that kind of shifts the focus back onto the Champions League teams, and even then I think that's tricky to get an edge on other people, because Man City, Villa, Newcastle have all had doubles in the last 4 or 5 game weeks, and so we're probably mostly loaded up on 2 or 3 of their players anyway, and you're not going to be transferring them out. So I think it's made it difficult to gain ground in the last few weeks, because a lot of the template has just done so well and no one has really needed to be rotated. Do you kind of agree with that, really?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, there's been teams that or players that have been performing well that haven't had really anything to play for, or have been scoring well at least. So, yeah, I don't know. I guess that narrative is maybe a little bit old or cliche, I suppose, of just like not wanting or nothing to play for. But yeah, those teams are certainly something to focus on, as in like they're going to try their hardest, but then at the same time, the defense are going to try their hardest too. So, if they're playing each other kind of like Newcastle and Arsenal are, and then Forest and Chelsea are on the last day, like those games might be not as high scoring as we'd hope they'd be if we're looking at their attacking assets. So the defenders might be going just as hard. So yeah.
All right, well, should we start the conversation? But I mean, I think the big noise this week is definitely Aston Villa. And probably even Chelsea should be up there in the same conversation, because both of those teams are playing, obviously, Manchester United and Tottenham, who've got the Europa League final the week after. And Tottenham were just absolutely abysmal in that game against Crystal Palace.
Yeah, so the final for Spurs and Man United is Wednesday the 21st, which is, and Spurs and Villa and Man United and Chelsea play Friday, which is the 16th. So that's 2 days rest-ish, plus 1 day of travel before the final. So on the Wednesday. So, I mean, well, actually, no, there's more than that, isn't it? It's like maybe 3 or 4 days rest-ish. So, I mean, is that enough to say that they're going to rotate or not rotate? I would assume they probably will rotate, because are you going to really risk your top key players losing out? Like Bruno Fernandes, what's the chance of him playing this weekend? Probably slim, next to probably 10%, like someone like that. So Spurs, we've seen them been terrible most of the season, defensively at least, and I think they probably need to wrap Van der Ven under sort of everything to keep him fit, and then Romero and stuff like that, and Porro, like they're probably all going to be rotated. So people are looking at this Tottenham home fixture for Villa and just thinking, yeah, this could be a bloodbath. It's like it probably is there for a slaughter waiting to happen for Villa, because they're going to go full strength, because why wouldn't they? And they need to win for the Champions League spots. So yeah, people are looking at Watkins, and rightly so, I guess. Like 8.9 million now, 20% owned. Expect that to jump up. But most people are obviously selling him or selling Isak to get him, and that, is that a good thing? I mean, I'm not sure. So I feel like he's getting maybe a little bit overhyped, but then this fixture and then Man United away after that. I mean, on paper they don't sound amazing, but on the table form and obviously the rotation risk is like it probably is really good. So yeah, he's actually predicted less points than Isak in the final two fixtures.
That's really interesting.
That's on a Hub's point prediction players. So and everyone obviously is selling Isak to get him. So yeah, there's a conflict of interest there, I would say. Yeah, Spurs have the 5th worst XGC of the last 6 weeks, which was 10.8, and they've conceded 15. So yeah, the defense has not been good at the best of times. Villa have the 3rd best XG of 11.82 with 13 goals. So yeah, Watkins with no real competition, striker competition anyway, with Rashford out, seems like he should be ready to play both of them. Yeah, so then I did look at a little bit of Asensio versus Watkins versus Rodgers. Of those three, probably are going to be the ones that get the minutes over, because I think Tielemans was out as well, right? So right. Yeah, so mins wise over the last 6 weeks, Asensio's got 379 versus Watkins 344, and then Rodgers 522. So Rodgers is obviously clearly nailed on. He'll definitely play the last two. Yeah, shots wise 11 versus 9 versus 8. So Asensio's getting more shots in. Big chances 4 versus 5 versus 3. So in Watkins' favor there. XG of 2.44 versus 1.35 versus 1.33. I think that 2.44 is highly from those 2 penalties from Asensio that he missed, obviously. So who the hell is going to be taking penalties is going to be an interesting factor. Assuming Asensio plays, will he get a 3rd chance? Watkins has taken 1 or 2 this year. I think he's missed one of them at least. And then Rodgers, like, could Rodgers be in a shout with penalties? Maybe. Yeah, and I think Tielemans was the one taking them since Asensio, and he's obviously out now, so who knows really there. But yeah, key passes 8 versus 3 versus 10, so in Rodgers' favour. Big chances created 1 versus 1 versus 5, so Rodgers doing really well there. XA of 0.76 versus 0.12 versus 1.45. So Rodgers looking really good on the assist potential. And then points wise is obviously a big difference. 9 versus 32 versus 31. So there's basically nothing in it from Rodgers and Watkins. And then Rodgers' assist potential is big. His XG is basically the same as Watkins at 1.3 versus 1.35. So like I'm looking at that and kind of thinking, you've already got Rodgers, but I'm thinking I've got Sarr ready to sell for Rodgers here, and just possibly just like, not spend all that money, not have to sell Isak, and just risking him going wild in those 2 games when he's predicted actually more than Watkins. I would be absolutely terrified of not owning Isak in 38 versus Everton at home. So yeah, this to me, in my team personally, I think I'm going to get Rodgers in, and just hope that Watkins is not the one getting all the points. And considering his price point is obviously much cheaper, and you can do more with the funds that you will probably get from whoever you're selling. So yeah, Asensio's got a good threat if he starts. Obviously, like 9 points versus the others is not a good look, obviously, but maybe he's been a little bit unlucky. Like his numbers aren't too bad. Like his XG was big because of the penalties, but the rest, the key passes is good. The XA is good. So yeah, he could be a decent punt, but for me, I think I probably have to go Rodgers' way, just because I think because I don't want to sell Isak, I don't want to sell Evanisson, I don't want to sell Wissa, so I'm kind of stuck there of just being like, I can't get Watkins, and Rodgers is basically there on the stats wise anyway. But yeah, what's your thoughts on Watkins? Is he being a little bit overhyped? Yeah. Would you sell Isak?
I think he's.
What do you think?
I think he's probably being a bit overhyped, but that's probably due in part because people are frustrated with their other strikers at the moment, and he scored last game week and Tottenham, so it's probably like a combination of things. I agree. I don't think, I mean, we both in the same boat in terms of we both own Isak, and even if I had a decent 3rd striker who wasn't Mateta, I wouldn't be considering selling Isak this week for Watkins. I think like Newcastle are one of the form teams in the league at the moment.
Yeah, not
Arsenal,
like Arsenal's defense has been that great either.
Exactly. I feel I've seen people benching Isak this game week to play like a fifth mid. I would
Nah.
nowhere go near that. I think he's capable of returning against Arsenal. I think he has already, maybe even twice this season. I'm pretty sure I read as well that Newcastle have beaten Arsenal in every meeting this season. So that's a huge game. I mean, that's essentially like it's going to decide who finishes second. And then you're right, they finish Everton at home, where Isak is absolutely a captain shout on that last game week of the season.
Arsenal at home, he got 9 points. Isak, so yeah.
I just don't think he's a sell. I think he's such a strong captaincy pick. I mean, and I'd be surprised if people have more than one transfer at this stage. It might be a bit hokey cokey to do it, but I just think Arsenal game is fine for him. Arsenal as I found out, have barely kept any clean sheets since I wildcarded in game week 30. They kept one against Ipswich, so Newcastle are they might have been the highest T or highest XG average per game since game week 30. They're probably up there.
Yep.
Let me see. Yeah, they are the highest per 90 minutes, 1.9. So yeah, I would back him to do well. So I think that the too long didn't read version is I wouldn't sell Isak, but Watkins is still a great shout and good captaincy shout, I think, this week.
How much do you actually think Spurs and United are going to rotate then? Because obviously with Man United, like Palmer's possibly someone people are looking at too. So what do you reckon?
I think they will definitely rotate. I think it'll be similar team to what they played last weekend, maybe with 2 or 3 changes. I just don't see the point for either of them. They've been so bad in the league. Why are they going to start now to perform well? Because they're they're comfortably the 4th and 5th worst teams in the league for a reason. Like I wouldn't, not just backing against them on name alone, just because it sounds Tottenham. It's Tottenham Hotspur on paper. They are bad, and the same Manchester United. They are bad at the moment. They're both great fixtures, and they're like amplified by the fact that it's going to be second string players essentially.
Who's got a better second string? Like, is Villa's first team going to struggle more against Spurs' second team, or is Chelsea's first team going to struggle more against United's second team?
That's such a hard question. I feel like I don't know Spurs' second team well enough to like comfortably answer that.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's like Spence, people like that, Davies. I mean, who else? I mean, like a guy from Norway, whatever he's called, Van der Berg, is that what he's called?
Oh yeah.
No, that's what I'm blanking on his name, but he's pretty good. Yeah, and then probably someone like Johnson, maybe Son, if he's fit, he'll play that because he's not been in the top team. Tough to call, really.
Who's the worst? I mean, we could talk about Chelsea now as well if you like, actually, because
why not?
Well, I suppose let's just finish the Villa bit then by just saying, how would you rank the players you've discussed? I mean, defensive. I think most people have a defensive asset from their team.
Yeah,
Conser or Martin is probably the picks there.
I think it probably is. I think just about Rodgers, and then Watkins, and then Asensio, I guess, and then you probably have your defensive pick. So I think Rodgers, from those numbers and those minutes, seems like he's the best pick. But then Watkins can get braces. We've seen it before. He's got over 200 points again this season. I think it is, or he's close to. So he's obviously a great asset. But I think it's in terms of selling a mid that's going to be crap in most people's teams, like Sarr / Murphy, for a Rodgers this week rather than selling Isak. I think Rodgers should be the one to go for.
No, okay. Yeah, I like it as well. He's definitely the more reliable minutes pick as well. And just on Chelsea, so again, I view this in a similar way, really. I think there's good options throughout the team. Cucurella, we've seen both, in free hit, he performed well. He's capable of a goal at home. I expect Chelsea are probably going to keep another clean sheet because Manchester United have just been poor from an attacking sense. So I think if you have a transfer in hand, like Cucurella would be my pick there. If I had some really big cojones this weekend, and I wasn't that scared of EO, I would absolutely think about maybe taking a hit to transfer Salah out, because I think I'm probably very likely to get Watkins. So I'm thinking, what's my second upside transfer? And I've seen a lot of people still talk up Palmer, But I think I'd almost like want to bet against that and go Enzo instead. So when I was having a look at the numbers since game week 30, I feel like we picked Palmer on the free hit simply just because of his price and what he did last season. But like for a long period now, I think it's since game week 26 and then again since game week 30, this is Enzo now, who's only 4% owned. He's been Chelsea's highest point scorer with 36 points. Palmer in that time's got 28. But all of the numbers point to Enzo just performing better. So he's had more key passes in that time. I think it's 19, which was 5 more than Palmer. He has created 3 big chances, which is again one more than Palmer. He's had 3 big chances himself, which is 1 more than Palmer, and he's had an XG of 1.71 to Palmer's 1.2, which is non-pen. So if Chelsea get a penalty, sure, Palmer's going to take it and likely can convert it, although he did miss one. But for quite a long period of time now, it's been clear that Enzo is the more productive midfielder in that team, and he's outperforming him. And the points don't lie, the expected points don't lie. Anyway, I think it'd be really punty, and I'm not a really punty player, so I'm probably not going to.
Yeah, I mean, it's the X risk, I guess, of just or X explosiveness of just you thinking that Palmer's probably could have a pop-off game at any point. Whereas Enzo, double return seems pretty unlikely or something like that. So, that's tough. I mean, a hit for Salah out. I don't. Maybe last week would have made sense against Arsenal, but like this week against Brighton, it's tougher, I guess, to justify for sure for a hit anyway. I mean, I don't mind selling Salah this week because because they're literally on the beach as we've seen today, like Salah literally. So,
but I don't know who the best midfield option is, and like I don't feel like I just have to spend that money on another like high-priced asset. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
By that, and I'm just trying to think who's got a team who's got something to play for. So I would probably say after Villa, Chelsea, and who looks like they've performed well recently. And surprisingly, or maybe not surprisingly, it's been Enzo's performing well for a long time, and he's a differential as well. So.
Yeah,
I mean, Salah has been poor for weeks now, but we probably just haven't got rid of him because we've been worried. Like if the wildcard had been a bit different with Haaland not getting injured, a lot of people would not have had Salah, and we would have made so much ground up. He's been nowhere since game week 30. He's had 2 returns, 1 goal, and that was a penalty. Yeah.
Yep, 100%.
All right. Is there any other picks from Chelsea that you like for that game?
I mean, the season? Not really. I think it's those 3. I think Cucurella seems bold. But United probably don't score, but then Forest at home on the last, Forest probably score. So I think you're backing on this being definitely a clean sheet. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Let's jump up. Should we talk about just some other sort of picks we like for the final couple of game weeks?
So other team, I'll mention Trossard, Saka, Martinelli. So Arsenal, they're in danger of possibly dropping out if they lose the last 2. I mean, it seems unlikely, obviously, but it's a crunch game, I would say, against Newcastle. They have the less pressure, but they certainly should try and do something. Yeah. And then Trossard, Saka versus Martinelli. So Newcastle home and then Southampton away is obviously the fixtures. Saints away last game, obviously pretty hard to ignore. City just drew 0-0 away with Saints. So, that's kind of a red flag, I guess. But I've got a good feeling for Arsenal going there on the last day at least. So this week could obviously determine second place. So, I quite like the attackers this week. And then obviously the last game week sounds good. So, again, I did a comparison like I did with Asensio, Rodgers, and Watkins. So last 6 weeks, minute-wise, Trossard first, Saka, and then Martinelli. So minute-wise, 5-2-2 for Trossard. So he's been absolutely nailed on in the Premier League. 3-3-3 versus 4-7-4. So Saka obviously way down there. But obviously he is the most important player, and they were in the Champions League at that point. Shots-wise, still like 17 versus 16 versus 14. So Saka still up there. Big chances 3 versus 5 versus 2. More big chances for Saka. That was probably due to that Ipswich game where he just failed to convert anything. XG of 1.94 versus 1.73 versus 1.44. Key passes 5 versus 12 versus 5. XG of 0.95 versus 1.35 and 0.63. And then bonus 8 versus 0 versus 0. And then points wise, this is huge. 44 for Trossard versus 8 for Saka and 22 for Martinelli. So, yeah, I think I've seen that there's a possible hamstring injury for Trossard, which could affect things. So if he didn't have that, I think he would have been a shrewd buy possibly, because obviously they still didn't have a striker situation, and he is in the team at the moment and performing well. So, but at the same time, it looks like Saka's been pretty unlucky with his returns. Whereas Trossard's been overperforming. Newcastle's have got the 6th best XGC at the moment of the last 6 weeks of 6.8, and then Saints have 18th worst XGC of 11.4. So is Saka worth bringing back in? Obviously, you still own him, but others possibly sold him and stuff, and are looking to bring him back in. At 17.1% ownership, no returns since game week 30, but his mins have taken an uptick since out of Europe with 85 and 87 in the last 2. He had an XGI of 1.39 versus Ipswich, but then he got 1 point. But then he had a 0.54 and 0.56 XGIs versus Bournemouth and Liverpool, 2 points each. Yeah, so the returns to me, his expected goal involvement, his actual numbers, his assist potential, his shots and his big chances are all up there and above the other two. That says returns are coming to me, and he's just been a bit unlucky. I absolutely am tempted by, selling Salah, selling Sarr, and getting Saka and Palmer in.
Nice.
That seems really fun to me. So I mean, obviously I would still have I think I would have the money, because I've got 7.8 million in the bank, and those two seem like two big explosive players. Palmer versus Enzo, whatever, but I think I'd probably back the explosiveness, and I think Saka is certainly explosive, and I think he could be in the points against Newcastle, and he's certainly on the money for points on Southampton away. A little bit, I probably wouldn't captain him in that fixture, just seeing what we've seen with City. But I like that as a final day thing. So Saka, I think, is probably going to be worth the money, because his numbers have just been really good despite not returning. So it's the catching them before they get the points, I suppose, and you still own him in a good place, but others are looking to get there, and I absolutely want to get there. So
I don't know. I was just thinking about that while you were talking about his numbers, and I don't know if it has been good to own him, because I obviously got him on the wild card, and I thought I had a huge big brain when he came off the bench and scored against Fulham, because not many people had got him straight away. And then the returns after that, which fair enough, he's been brought back in slowly, but I think the huge letdown was the double game week. And then subsequently since then, when you see Eze is just absolutely taken off, and he missed some good chances in that Liverpool game. You're right, the expected goal involvement was good, and against Bournemouth, and he's just been really unreliable. And I'm happy to have him this game week against Newcastle. I'm maybe expecting a return, but I don't know about a haul. And even that Southampton game, because of what you've said about how the points have been shared between Trossard and Martinelli, which we've seen in the last 2 game weeks where he's played, they've scored 3 goals and he's had no returns. That does make me think in that last game against Southampton, even if they do score quite a few goals, how
it could happen again.
How talismanic is he going to be? Is talismanic? And so he's still a differential, but
he just needs a little penalty and then an assist, and then you're laughing, I think, and that could easily happen in both of those games. So I think I absolutely want him, basically.
When the bus team rolled around for this game week, very initially I was like, all right, I'm going to captain him this weekend, but that was before the Liverpool game. So I'm happy to have him, but I don't expect lots.
So
I'm probably not going to captain him now.
Captain versus Newcastle at home. Okay, interesting.
Because I just think he's still quite a differential, and might be quite a nice captain. He's less owned than Watkins. Okay, I just wanted to say we had a question in the chat. Retro Gamer said, "Hi guys, he's tripled up on Villa, is it worth a -4 to bring in Watkins?" He's thinking no, because he has Haaland and De Bruyne. I would also probably say no to that. Would you?
I think so. I think you can back Haaland to possibly do more than Watkins.
I think De Bruyne's quite likely to play the Bournemouth game because it's his last game at home. And they've still got motivation, just like Villa. I think Watkins is, unless you were going to captain him and you thought the captaincy was a lot better, then probably wouldn't. And then Giamma says, last day Salah at home with the trophy presentation is a narrative that would make me a bit nervous to sell him. I can see that.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, but I do like the idea of your Palmer and Saka move. And then just finally, while we were chatting earlier, and I forgot to mention before we moved on, so Emery actually after that Southampton game said about the order of the penalty takers. So the quote was, the first one is Rashford, the second is Asensio, third is Tielemans. So at the moment, Tielemans is in pole position.
Okay.
After that, it's John McGinn or Ollie Watkins. So Watkins is fifth. So I think he's quite unlike,
Why do you think Rodgers wouldn't be above any of those? It's like...
I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I reckon he'd be quite good. So yeah, I think it's very unlikely that Watkins actually gets to take a penalty because I would expect Asensio and McGinn to play. Which is a shame, but what can you do? All right, let's move on.
Do you want to mention some people? Or?
Yeah, I'll talk about City a little bit because Retro Gamers sort of advice came into that, led into that quite nicely. So on City, I still think there's a chance to get ahead a little bit on the defensive pick. So I would say that most people now have probably got 2 City because of Marmoush, or 2 or 1, but just because of selling Marmoush. Although, Retro Gamer maybe sounds like he's got 3. But 5 clean sheets in the league since game week 30. That's the most of all teams. And Diaz, who's priced at 5.5 million now, let me see if I can just see what his ownership is as well. Seems like someone I've just missed, or we've missed the boat on. I think we all thought that City were going to blow teams away, especially after that Crystal Palace game. But they've actually just been so resolute. And Gvardiol's now the second highest scoring defender this season, because of all the banking of the clean sheets, which caught me off guard a little bit. So yes, I think Diaz has just been super reliable for minutes. If I had a look here, since he come back into the team game week 27, he's played 90 minutes in every game. His expected points and baseline bonus over that time have been great, essentially on a par with Gvardiol. They've been the 2 top scoring players for Man City since game week 27, and he's still a differential when compared to Haaland or De Bruyne at 5.1%. I think that they're still good fixtures. The Bournemouth game and Fulham game, we know they have motivation to win. They're also in great form. They haven't been rotating their centre-back pairings. He's hoovering up bonus when they get a clean sheet. I think there's, if you're looking to add a third City player, who I'm not looking to maybe take a hit for a defender this week, but my defence is like yours, you're probably finding, is pretty thin at the moment.
Yeah.
And City are the only team who have got form, motivation, and reasonable fixtures for the end of the season. So I think a double up on them is probably a differential way of getting some points out of your defenders before the end of the season.
Do you think they would rotate at all? The Crystal Palace FA Cup final is Saturday the 17th, so the first team surely play that, and then they play on Tuesday night at 8 o'clock.
Yeah, I was listening.
There's not a lot of time.
No, I was listening to the Totally Football podcast, and they seem to think, maybe it'll be a bit different in the FPL world, but they seem to think that Guardiola will trust the players he's picked for the FA Cup run. So it'll be players like Grealish, who hasn't featured so much, and maybe it'll be Ortega that will play.
And Riley Lewis.
Yeah, exactly. And maybe Akanji will play. So, it's a huge game because it's the final, but they seem to think that he's going to trust players that have played a lot in the Cup and maybe give some starts to them, which, I could see from a De Bruyne, I could see that he doesn't start and maybe comes on at 60 in case the thinking is it goes to injury time and he plays 60 minutes to keep him fresh. So,
yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, I could, yeah. And then just on Haaland, I'm personally, even though he's back, I'm personally not feeling it as a buy because I think it requires probably too much surgery. His minutes are surely not going to be 180 for the final 2 games, even though he played 90 against Southampton. I just think surely that's managed with the Club World Cup afterwards. We don't know how much he's going to play in the FA Cup. He was rusty against Southampton, that one shot you mentioned in the 90-something minute. And in the reverse fixtures, he played 180 minutes against these 2 teams and blanked in both of them. So I think he's a nice differential if you can get there in a free transfer. But I don't know. I just think there's probably better, more informed options that you could go with. What do you think about Haaland for the last couple? His ownership's still high.
Yeah, I think the time to bring him in was last week if you were going to do it, and obviously didn't do much. So personally don't love it. I think Bournemouth are fairly stingy. I think when I've watched Haaland versus Bournemouth before, I've never been confident of him doing a lot, Haaland-wise anyway. So, yeah, Fulham on the final day seems like it could be a good one for him, for sure. Yeah, that Fulham, look like they're absolutely out of anything now. It seems like anyway. So I think they could be there for the taking on the final day. But yeah, for my team, I'm not going there. I've not owned him all season, amazingly, and I don't plan to start.
I love that. That's cool. I mean, the highest scoring player in the game last season. I think it just shows what the pricing did, and you I'm not having this, but it's worked out.
Yeah, well, I've got fortunately he obviously got injured, and then after that run of being like, oh my god, at the start of the season of being absolutely destroyed by him, he just went on those huge run of blanks, didn't he? So yeah.
Disgusting. All right, just a final couple of picks for the last 2 game weeks. One which I think is quite left field, but still a good one, is Welbeck. Probably due in part to the teams he's paying more than his own necessarily his individual form. But as we mentioned earlier, Liverpool absolutely just celebrating. Well, not celebrating. They're remembering Trent's Liverpool career by going on a holiday to Dubai, and we've seen loads of pictures of them there still today. And they're due to get back Friday evening. They've got the game against Brighton on the Monday night. There's probably going to be rotation, I would imagine, because they have been rotating in these 2 league games since they've won the league. Brighton, at that point, they probably have still maybe got something to play for, depending on how the FA Cup goes, possibly. So I just think Welbeck seems like a nice inclusion in a good home fixture against Liverpool, who've been, they conceded 4 goals in 2 games now. I think Brighton can absolutely capitalise on that. And then obviously the last game of the season, which I think is also good for them because they play Spurs. And the game against Crystal Palace was open. It'll be a few days after the Europa League final. I think that'll be quite a high-scoring game. So I think Danny Welbeck at 6% ownership, I think he's got quite a good run of games there. And if I thought more about it, and I'm not a fan of double attack and double defence usually throughout the season, and now I looked at Cunha. I didn't really look at Wood last week. I ruled myself out of that. But yeah, Welbeck could have been there, and the fixtures on paper were all right. But yeah, I don't know what you think about him as a pick.
Yeah, I think Brighton have been historically quite good against Liverpool in the last few years, right? So yeah, why not? If you've got room to go there, then yeah, why not?
He's returned.
Basically.
He scored and assisted in the 2 reverse fixtures as well. 5 points against Liverpool at Anfield and 8 points against Spurs at home. So he's had history this season of doing it. So yeah, I think he seems quite a nice pick, really.
Yeah, I think most people, if they're going to be transferring a striker, it's going to be Watkins. So I don't think most people are going to have the transfers free to be able to do that. But I still like it. It's a good one.
Yeah. All right. Any more picks on your side?
Yeah. So final player I want to mention is Bowen. Yeah, nothing to play for as we've talked about, but 7.7 million, 12%. I considered a hit for him a lot of times recently, and I didn't do it. He's got Nottingham Forest at home and Ipswich left away on the final day, which seems really good. 5th highest scoring player of the last 6 weeks of 45 points. So yeah, wish I had him instead of Sarr. 5th highest scoring mid overall, 172. Amazing, really, in a really dire West Ham team this year. Yeah, last 6 weeks he's got 7, 2, 9, 10, 9, and 8. So just any of those games would have been great to bring him in, and I just still didn't. Yeah, only one game and there's been a double return with 2 assists, which is that 10-pointer. But he's obviously ticked along nicely and getting bonus. Yeah, Forest has had the 4th worst XGC recently of 11.2 in the last 6 weeks, and Ipswich is the 2nd worst of 12.6. So yeah, Forest defense was once a really good defense, now absolutely not the case. So Bowen, Forest at home, I don't see why he can't get a return there. And then Ipswich away on the last day. Yeah, like we've said in the last few shows, a brace on the last day, a goal, assist, that could certainly happen. I think that game will be really open. So, but however, his stats aren't amazing, basically. So 13 shots in the last 6 weeks, not in the top 10 for mids. XG of 2.15 is 7th. Big chances of 4 is joint 3rd with quite a few others. I think it was quite a lot. key passes of 5 is not in the top 10. Big chances created of 2 is not in top 10. And then 1.02 XA is also not in the top 10 of mids. So, yeah, although he's been returning loads and I fancy him in the next 2 games, like his stats are not saying that he's going to be doing great. And, the expected numbers are not amazing either. So, obviously, I'm not sure he has much motivation, but he hasn't in all the other last 6 weeks and all the other games, and he's been doing well. So, if you have a spot left in midfield, if you're not bringing Palmer and Saka or whoever else, if you've got a cheaper mid that you can upgrade to him at 7.7 million, I think he's great for the last 2 weeks personally. So, I just wish I had a few more free transfers and couldn't take a few hits. And just like the minus points at this point is heartbreaking, but I like him.
Yeah, I think the risk of taking any minus points is awful at the moment, because you just think it's very unlikely they're going to return that point hit. But yeah, he has
exactly,
and he's been doing so well, considering how poor West Ham's form would be, or like win rate had been before that Man United game. And I agree, Nottingham Forest seem to have fallen off a cliff defensively. They've just got shaky at the worst time of the season. They're definitely not going to keep a clean sheet in that one. And then, the Ipswich game, the last game of the season, I would expect to be quite open as well, because it's their last Premier League game for at least a season.
Yep.
Jammer's made a nice point in the chat. The striker punt he's going for is Vardy. I think that might not be too bad a shout either. Last home game, although he's not expecting 90 minutes. But I think, am I right in thinking he needs 1 goal for 200 Premier League goals? Is that right?
I think so, yeah. I think that's right, yeah.
So, wouldn't be surprised if he got that this weekend. And he's actually been in, like, some form. He got an assist against Forest, didn't he? And didn't he get a goal the game week before? I'm just having a look. Yeah, he did. 5-9.
One of the only teams with, like, maybe kind of good greenish fixtures the last 2. Ipswich at home and then Bournemouth away. Like, other than Ipswich, who actually do have greens, which is Leicester away and West Ham at home. But this problem is that they're bad teams.
Yeah, exactly.
So you can't back them. Or well, anyway. But yeah, I haven't owned Vardy and I don't really fancy him. But that motivation is absolutely there, and that's a narrative you can spin.
Yeah.
And if you get it right, then why not?
Yeah, I love just having a look at his XG. XG 0.01. This is in the game against Forest. XA 0.02. Expected goal involvement 0.93. Points 5. Yeah, great.
Fair enough.
Cool. Right, I think we're going to wrap up now, and we'll be back later in the week. I don't think there's any more questions from anyone I have asked, but I think we've covered quite a bit. So that wraps up our best picks. We'll be back with our team selection video on the channel. That'll probably be live tomorrow, and we'll see you this time next week for our last game week preview of the season.
Yeah, greens please. Thank you.
Greens please. Yeah. Hope everyone has a great game week. We'll see you next time.
Cheers all.